Pat not here?
She's here, I heard her.
Oh, good.
All right, we're gonna call this meeting to order. Let the, should I reflect that the council people are here, or, I don't know. Well, okay, note that everybody's here.
Right.
And if I can get a motion for the adoption of the
So
minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And we have nobody here from the public. And so we are here to adopt the committee report and just add any finalizations or input after everyone's had the opportunity to review from our last meeting, the draft that I put together. And so,
All right.
the floor is yours, sir.
Well, it's not mine. You want to take us through in each page, see if there are additions, corrections, amendments, anything of that nature?
Okay.
Okay. Now, I don't know if you have anything, but.
I don't have anything further from our first meeting, so.
Okay. Well, let's go to the second page.
Mhm.
Let me see. A couple things. Actually, let's go back to the first page. This might seem minor, but let's go ahead and fix it. If you look at the second, this is the following individuals made presentations and contributed to the ad hoc committee. If you look at the second, fourth, let me see, sixth, eighth, 10th bullet point.
Ad hoc committee?
Yep, come on in.
All right.
10th bullet point after Mike and Linda, just to stay consistent. We need a comma right after that. Yep. On the second page, if you look at under support of the Lansing School District families overcoming rough times, we discussed that and put that recommendation together last time. Starting with in February of 2023, there were between 500 and 600 students in temporary no housing. The second line, summer camps to build resistance to the trauma students see education support and mental health support for students as well as staff. I had no idea what that's an incomplete sentence. So I don't know if we're gonna, I think we should amend that to add are all included with the comprehensive program.
That's fine.
Okay,
That
let's
summer
add that.
camps are,
So it says summer camps to build resistance to
Right.
trauma students, see education support, mental health support for students, as well as staff, and then we're going to put are all included within comprehensive programming. And then the recommendation would then make sense, right? And then let's take out, for the recommendation, let's take out the word to after neighborhood and citizen engagement. So in neighborhood and citizen engagement, seek funding and other partners to assist with for. So just minor changes with
Okay.
regard to that page. Okay. Third page, for me, when I'm looking at the top recommendation, recommend for the administration partner with and seek funding. So we just take out that word for. Recommend the administration partner with and seek funding. I would assume this is supposed to be either from or with. Is it with? Are we looking to advocate for funding with Ingham County, and then they would facilitate the administering of or the establishment of a medical respite
Yeah,
clinic? I don't
Go
understand.
ahead. We've been talking about over the last years. You know, we have the Ingham, the county health
Right.
centers,
Mhm.
and then you have the city, but there's no services within the city.
Yep.
It's all delivered through the health centers through the county.
Right.
So when we're talking about medical respite clinic, the
Right.
city is not in a position
Right.
or would have to build from the ground up.
Right.
Any type of clinic and service. So currently with the health centers, there's 14 through the county within the city of Lansing, including the most recent one at Allen Neighborhood Center. So what I was writing here is the administration or the city working with the infrastructure we already have in place within the city to possibly establish a medical respite clinic that was discussed here.
So they would then run and facilitate. So what I would do is change that to recommend the administration to partner with and seek funding for the Ingham Community Health
So you're
Centers.
just saying switch the word with to for.
Yeah, because when I read that, I thought, okay, so we're gonna jointly, right? If this has to be an actionable document, right? And so if the
I'm with
administration,
you. I'm just saying the only change is the word with to for.
Okay, yes,
that's fine.
and for Ingham Community Health Centers to establish. Yes, that makes it perfect.
Yeah, okay.
Sound good?
I just use different words than you
Nope,
use.
yeah,
You're,
yeah.
you're English teacher,
Well, I'm
so
just
you
going
would
through. I'm
change
just going through.
Yeah.
And then if we're going to homeless management information system, let me just try to remember everything I wrote down because I did this a few days back. Let's see, second line, okay, so is an adopted system at the state level. Let's go and include the word there, or at the state level, comma, and every continuum of care in Michigan uses this for their grants. So let's go and include the word and right before every.
okay.
we go down to the recommendation, so we have like a partial recommendation, essential starter. We have recommend the administration work with the COC. What are we asking them to do there?
Are you talking about?
We need to finish the recommendation. I didn't know if it was, I just put a couple notes down. I didn't know if it was work with Continuum of Care and other local agencies to evaluate current local MHIS efforts and to identify and address any perceived or real deficiencies within the system. I didn't know what we're asking them to do.
Yes, so from our last meeting, what I asked is your guys' input.
No, that's what I'm saying. So what do you think?
So I think what you're saying is good, but
Okay.
because there's so many different stakeholders, so much
Right,
different things
right.
said, that's why it's like that. So, of course, what we've talked about in this ad hoc committee is how are we going to get some consistency as
Right.
well as effectiveness. So
Right.
right now it sounds like what we've learned, and if I'm wrong, correct me, is that over time the city was managing the HMIS system, which was more centralized. Now we have an individual agency who is a part of the COC, who's in East Lansing, who's managing this agency, but is not necessarily the central provider of services and delivery for people who face homelessness.
Yeah.
So that's the situation that we're in. So
Right.
how do we want to recommend that the city moves forward? It seemed to have worked better when the city was managing it. That's not our role. We can recommend. We can't, enforce.
Right.
So that's where that is at this point. This is committee.
But if you have something to add. during
Can I
this
interject
piece.
regarding that?
Yeah.
So the mission shelters more than half the people in the community,
Yep.
and we entered into a different system.
Right.
But we used to send the data to the city of Lansing.
Right.
They would log into our system and extract data out and populate HMIS.
Right.
Now, whether that's changed or not, I don't know. So you get a good point. The data should be in HMIS, and whoever the HARA is, whether it's the COC or the city, they should extract that data and put it in HMIS.
Well, the HARA now is Avenhouse. It's
Yeah, I
not
know, with the COC.
It's not with the COC.
No, I understand that,
Okay.
but I understand they're part of the that's what
Yeah.
we're missing words here. Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, sure.
So
So I think then, so that we can capture this kind of broad-based, did you like the wording I used? I mean, we can include that.
No, I like that.
So I just put recommend the administration work with the continuum of care and other local agencies to evaluate the current local HMIS efforts and to identify and address any perceived or real deficiencies within the system. We respectfully ask that the council report back or something of that nature.
Yeah, that's-
So it'd be nice to have a report of some sort back, right?
yeah,
Okay.
like we have for the other reports.
Right.
That'll work.
Okay.
A quick question, Mark,
Yeah,
sure.
since you interjected. So you're currently not uploading data to the city or anybody?
Not that I know. We have a login that anyone who's a part of the HARA or the city can log in and extract the data. So they've always retrieved the data from our system. We've never
Right.
pushed it. They've always
Okay.
pulled it. We've never changed it. It's always been accessible. Whether the HARA is doing it or the city's doing it, I don't know. But I think it's stopped since November of last year is my understanding. But our data is available. Whoever wants to take the time to extract it, we've entered all the data. They just have to extract it and populate it.
Great,
So-
thank you so much.
Yep.
Next, Community Mental Health Authority for Clinton, Eaton, and Ingham counties. First line, advocating for additional foster care homes in the Tri-County area that include support teams in various internal programs. I'm assuming that's supposed to be various or varied internal programs. So let's change that to what?
Whatever you think is the right
Let's
word.
do various. Then we'll go down to recommendation. The only thing I can think of there, based on what is here, is that we recommend the administration convene a group of stakeholders within the Tri-County area to devise a plan to add additional foster care homes that include support teams and various internal programs.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a need where,
Right.
he happens to be here, but
Right.
everyone's pushing everyone to see the rescue mission. They're not
Right.
a mental health provider. We have had in the past more homes and long-term supports for people with mental and physical disabilities.
Right.
And that has decreased over the years. And so whether, and when you say foster, we're
Right.
talking about adult foster homes, which is long-term sheltering or housing for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
and it's almost non-existent.
No, I think the issue, is outlined well here. We just needed to make sure that if we're going to include that, there's some type of recommendation. So that was the only thing I could come up with. I don't know if Pat was able to come up with anything.
No, that's good.
Okay.
For that.
Did you get that wording?
Yes.
You're fast, okay. And then as it pertained to Lovejoy, I was a little confused. So we have this information in here. I know we had them present. I actually missed that meeting, but no, I was actually here. But with regards to the recommendation, was your thought that we contract with them, that we partner with them, that we prioritize HRCS funding for them? What were we thinking there?
What I was thinking, because they brought that Hopewell brought that knowledge that day, so I don't necessarily contract or any of that stuff.
Right.
Just kind of being a part of that dialogue. It seemed like when we had the different stakeholders in, she was able to expound upon these different areas and service deliveries and how they're all connected. It was very rich dialogue. We had a couple different service providers in that day, so that's kind of what I was trying to gather there. Is if some organization or agency, if Lovejoy came, is to kind of start rallying the Tri-County, the CMH and our HRCS, CMH together, and maybe come up with a solution to hit all these different areas.
Is your goal to have this done today in committee?
Yeah.
Okay. So then I'm going to respectfully ask you to come up with some wording.
Okay. So for this recommendation is the administration work with or partner with Lovejoy Community Services to look at the feasibility of developing an integrated service model that assists most vulnerable populations from overutilizing hospitalization, being incarcerated unnecessarily, and prematurely put in nursing homes.
So put into homes.
Yeah, and prematurely put into
Yeah.
nursing homes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. And then under disability network, it looks almost as if some of these you're addressing what the agencies provide in the community. You're addressing some of the concerns, and then there's a recommendation. Here, we kind of changed that up, right? So it almost looks like there's a recommendation baked into that opening narrative, which is fine. But I just want to make sure that we kind of, extract in a way where it is clear that that's the recommendation to the administration, because this first line says advocating to increase the housing needs for those with disabilities by working with the disability network, capital area. So I'm assuming that is actually a recommendation, right? So we're asking the administration. What are we asking there? Because you could almost start, if you want to stay consistent, you could almost start with their mission, which would be THERE, right? Their mission statement is, and then have their mission statement, and then under the recommendation, have this along with anything else.
Yeah, I see where it did.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's
so
do that.
Yeah, so why don't we pull that first line?
And make that the recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would change that up. Advocating to increase the housing needs. I don't think we want to increase housing needs. It's just that, Well, I think what we should put is advocating to improve access to housing and services for those with disabilities by working with the disability network, capital area. And then we might want to put something that we can act on. And so I put the potential of maybe including language, resolution to the governor and the legislature regarding funding HRCS, regarding funding for this, and then potentially putting something in there about HRCS funding prioritization.
Yeah, I like that.
This is the actionable items, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe in addition to Renee, advocating to improve access to housing and services for those with disabilities, we can put, in addition, a resolution to governor and legislature regarding funding similar efforts, related efforts. And then a consideration by HRCS for funding prioritization. Any grants or anything of that nature, applications that come in that relate to this. Okay. And then I think for Representative Emily Devendorf, I mean, obviously, we were pretty much there, right? So resolution to the legislature asking for or demonstrating some measure of support for the bill package. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, the areas that, that the council feels they can support.
Okay. Well, then, I don't think we necessarily have to get into the specifics, because when we actually consider that resolution, that's what we'll dive in. Because there are some things that, there's, certain folks who already said they can't support.
Okay.
Okay. Under economic development and planning, this is page 4. Let me see what I do here. Oh, so very simply, third line, continuum of care and acts as the fiduciary MHDA's, Michigan's ESG funds. We just need to put the word "for" in between fiduciary and Michigan. That's the third line, middle. Yep. 3, 7, the 7th line. 7th line after the word eligible, we just need a comma. And then recommendation, we need a recommendation there. I didn't necessarily put anything together, so we can certainly think about that.
Yeah, I wanted your guys' input because it's
Right.
been such a big.
Right. I mean, I think you have some of a. I think this is the recommendation, correct? I mean, you wrote it. So this last part, is that a recommendation that you were putting forth to code to economic development planning? Require that rental properties must have both.
I mean,
Or is this a request to?
I mean, I
our
kind
federal
of
partners? Who's that?
threw that in there, but let me ask you before I get into what I'm trying to say here is, what do you feel? Because you've been a champion of this for many times. I know we've been going back and forth, so it's so much involved. So what are some points, and then I can integrate them into what I'm saying.
Well, I think this is fine.
Okay.
Because I think we're trying to get at it, and maybe I'm wrong. I think what you're trying to get at is making sure that we are doing everything possible to ensure that our housing stock is up to code and safe and all of those things, right? Particularly of the affordable variety.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so do we just move that down to the recommendation part?
We can. I mean, I guess, I see how I've mixed a couple of the recommendations.
No, that's completely fine.
Yeah,
I
we
didn't
can.
know.
Is there anything else, though?
I don't have anything else, no.
Okay. So then let's move forward with just making that adjustment then.
Right.
Let's see what you're saying.
Yep, that's fine.
So you're looking at this last portion here? I'm trying to figure
Yeah,
out
I
where
think
you're
this
at,
this
it's
part
at.
where he's saying, sorry, require
Yep.
that rental property, yeah, that part.
Yep, okay.
So I would just move that. Budget priorities, the bottom where I already adopted,
Yeah.
past that. I didn't have anything for continuum of care. HRCS. I think the biggest thing for the recommendation, so the advocating for consistent coordination between code enforcement and housing ombudsman when homes are pink and or red tagged, because that's a recommendation from. I think what we need to put is very specifically that we need to devise a policy to address, and then it's a recommendation, of course, but devising a policy to address this issue and then presenting that to council.
Okay, I like that.
It'd be nice to actually have a policy that's
Right.
written, and should our housing ombudsman, as an example, ever pivot away from that position, that somebody else can come in and this is the expectation.
I like that.
And then same thing, housing ombudsman should update council annually concerning outreach, needs of the community, and unmet services. And unmet, that should be unmet, not unmet. Sorry, unmet services that impact housing and the ability to get housing landscape. Same thing. I think we need to recommend that a policy be devised that
Can I
pertains
go-
to updates.
Can I go
Yeah.
a little further and
You can do
put,
whatever you want.
With a report, like a written report? Can we,
Yeah,
can we,
yeah, absolutely.
Let's
Go
add
ahead.
written report because
Address
I think
and
that's
present
been
to council,
some
yeah.
challenge in the past. where-
Right. So you want that? Where do you want that?
In the recommendation. When you're talking about.
You want the update to be a written report.
Written report.
Right.
Okay.
That makes
So
sense.
we have it tangible and we can
Right.
go from there.
Hope that makes sense. Okay. And then for me, obviously those budget priorities were adopted. In terms of laws and courts, on the last page. Let's see what I wrote here. Amend Chapter 2, so this is the second line. Amend Chapter 203 Municipal Civil Infractions, Section 297.15, civil infractions with the specialty court, options of eviction court and community court. I guess I'm just, what amendments are we asking for there?
Just
Do
to
you have any
look,
ideas?
yeah, just to look at it to make it a little bit more stringent on the landlords, and then giving more opportunity. I mean, I don't know exactly how that can be done, but to make it more stringent for them and more support for the individuals.
So should we put a recommendation would be a thorough review
Yes.
of
yes.
Chapter
That's what I was
203
trying to say,
municipal
yeah.
civil infraction? Okay.
Yeah, thorough review. Thank you.
A thorough
That was
review,
what I
yeah.
was looking for.
In consideration of amendments.
Yes,
Okay.
because we gotta look at that because
To
it's
provide
just-
safeguards for.
Yeah, it's just
okay.
and then everyone's in a situation, and then there's
That's fine. And then this one says, update annually on the statistics of enforcement and penalties for unsafe conditions in homes per the administration code of civil infractions.
So what was the outcome similar to like when we're talking about police investigations, things like
Yeah.
that? We don't, what happened last year versus
Okay.
this year, that
Nope,
kind of thing.
nope, I'm good. Yes, I think as long as we change that second line, I think that it's actionable, right?
Yeah.
And that's actually the recommendation. So anything that's recommendation, I would move down to, just to keep it consistent.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, thanks for catching those things.
No,
Because
no,
we
that's
get to
fine.
get deep into it and it just kind of blurs together.
That's fine, and the budget already we're adopted.
All right, is there anything else?
That's it, man, that's all I
We're
got.
gonna have to put Councilman Spitzy absent,
Yep.
and let me get to mine. I always like to look at it. So if there's no other,
Did she provide you with anything in writing? No?
unless I just missed it. Was there
Okay.
I
anything?
have not.
Okay, I just didn't want, I wanted to make sure we captured her. Because last time we were here, I know she had a bunch of.
Right, I thought she was
annotations.
emailing them. So.
Okay.
I don't know what your thoughts are for future meetings. The next one is scheduled for next Tuesday. That's what we have on our.
Let me look and see after we.
Yeah, I would say, why don't we, because we might hear things tonight, we might hear things after it's been issued, I would maybe consider a pause for the time being.
Yeah.
And then, we can have some conversations.
Let me look at my email real quick to make sure she didn't just send something really quick.
I know she was on a work call, and I know Sherry assisted me and knocked on her door, but,
Okay, well then we'll just leave it at that.
so.
So-
I thought I would attend in case you guys had any questions for me. I felt there was some misinformation regarding the ad hoc committee, so I thought, I saw you guys on the schedule, I'm gonna be here at 7 o'clock anyway.
You
So
thought
I
there was some
misinformation
So this
regarding
this-
the mission.
Yeah, this right here is just this meeting is just literally for the report.
I realized when I got in, so I apologize.
Yeah. Oh, no,
I missed
that's
out my-
no
problem. Oh, that's okay.
I was available, so even off the record or on the record,
Right.
it doesn't matter. I want to be available to all of you. If you guys have any questions for me, if I can clarify things regarding the mission and what we do.
Right.
I just thought this would be a great opportunity to talk with you personally too. So if you guys have any questions for me regarding our purpose and how we function.
Oh
I
yes,
wanted
you
to be
did come a little
available.
late. You can do a public comment if you want. You weren't here when we talked about public comment. If you want to do a public comment.
Okay. So sure, my public comment would just simply be, we've been in the ministry, as you guys know, for 112 years. And we're a Christian organization sharing the gospel of Christ, but we'll serve anybody that comes. We don't discriminate based on who we serve. We do discriminate in the sense of we want like-minded people to serve in the ministry. So ministry partners, which are employees, board members, and volunteers that are serving in the ministry, so
Right.
preaching and teaching, have to correspond to our doctrinal statement. So we've communicated what we believe for 112 years. It hasn't changed.
Right.
And so I'm thankful we have a document online indicating what we believe, but we serve anybody that comes. I think it was a misunderstanding, maybe not from all of you, but maybe others from the committee, that we only serve certain people, and we serve everybody that comes. And so we don't discriminate based on orientation or gender identity or even religion. We'll serve anybody that comes. And so I just want to make sure the committee was aware of it and the city council was aware of it. We've never changed that. We've always functioned in that fashion. We serve 277 people a couple nights ago. We serve probably 60, upwards of 70% of the homeless people in our community. And we do it with just gifts of God's people. So it's privately funded through many, many thousands of gifts, probably 8,000 families, very few grants, very few gifts from churches. I'd say 95% of the $3 million a year come from individual families. And that supports the ministry. And so as the gifts grow, we want to be able to meet more needs in the community. That's why we're here, talking about the West Kalamazoo property. But I felt as though there may be some misinformation about how we serve. And I just felt like it would be appropriate to come be available to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Thank you so much.
Can I ask a question? So since we're here, and that meeting was rather quick, I've gotten a lot of questions, and I just would like you to address this, even though we can't deliberate or anything of that nature because
That's
it's
fine.
before
That's
the
why
body.
I'm here.
With regard to what you guys are trying to do in terms of SLU and Kalamazoo,
Yeah.
I think most folks understand what will happen with the Cedar Street facility and the fact that will be primarily families and you move the single family or the single woman, over to Kalamazoo. What is the plan outside of a dedicated kitchen? What's the plan for the Michigan Avenue
So
site?
I don't know about Michigan Avenue yet. So
Okay.
we actually are putting it on the market.
Okay.
And so depending on what we can get for it, we may keep it. We actually have a property on West Saginaw. I believe it's 608 West Saginaw, right next to Amy's Catering.
Yeah.
So we actually cater meals to Michigan Avenue and South Cedar Street. So
Oh,
all of our
okay.
meals are produced
Maybe I
on
read that wrong.
site.
So I thought Michigan Avenue was going to become the dedicated.
Potentially, yes. We
Okay.
could talk about moving from West Saginaw to Michigan Avenue,
Yeah.
because that's where our donations come in.
Got
So
it.
right now, that's our plan. So
Okay.
we'll receive donations, move our kitchen to Michigan Avenue. But if we can get a reasonable gift for that, a price for that property, we'll reinvest it in West Kalamazoo Street.
Got it.
Keep our West Saginaw property for kitchen use. So that's
Got
kind of
it.
up
That
in
makes
there right
sense.
now.
That makes a lot more sense.
We're willing to move off for the right price, quite
Got
honestly.
it.
So
And then what about the outreach?
we'll probably integrate that into West Kalamazoo Street. That was our
Okay.
intent.
Okay.
Consolidate services, I think be more efficient for our guests.
Right.
We recently talked about providing some medical care as well, as Ray had mentioned a couple weeks ago at our committee meeting. So there's kind of introductory level, but we need a respite. You guys even talked about that.
Yeah.
We need a respite in our community. We can partner with Ingham County to make that happen. I think it's a benefit to our entire community.
Right.
So I think the goal would be to bring the outreach to West Kalamazoo. So we have a day shelter, we'd have a night shelter. They would have a place to go during the day as well.
Got it.
So
Okay.
right now, normally when we first opened, we had 24/7. We just didn't have enough staff.
Right.
So we felt like the priority was obviously the evening. So we're open for almost 12 hours in the evening. We have 60 plus people there every night. And so the people at the outreach are severely mentally ill. For those with addiction, drugs, and alcohol.
Right.
Sometimes there are people out of our area too. So we're only serving because we're full, only people in our Tri-County area. The gifts come from Tri-County, therefore our Tri-County guests. And so we might let them stay for a couple nights, but say, hey, look, you're gonna have to find an alternative. And we'll even help people get back to where they came from if they have family and friends and network. But they may end up at the outreach because we need beds for our Tri-County area. So that's really our mode of operation. When we opened the outreach 4 years ago, we thought maybe 18 people would be a busy night, 12 people, and it's just grown. And it kind of speaks to the CMH part of it, where we need help both in rehabilitation, drugs, alcohol, as well as mental assistance. A lot of these people don't want to go to shelter. Like they have no intention, they don't function well in shelter. They're actually comfortable with the outreach, and so they remain there. Think about the lady, Valerie with the cart, she feels safe there. Well, praise God, she's alive. She's been in our ministry for over a year now. At first, she didn't want to talk to anybody, but now, we're friends with her. We're helping take care of her, And so that's a huge step for her mental health. She's got a safe place to go. She's got her little square by the cross in the outreach and goes there every single night. We take care of her. She can get a shower. She can get her phone charged. Do laundry, and someone will watch over her at night. She gets good rest. She's not going to function in the shelter. We tried it a few times. Didn't work for her. Didn't work for us.
Right.
But it's a good alternative. So that's important for our community to keep that outreach going. And so we look at just consolidating on West Kalamazoo Street.
No, that's super helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Sure.
That's my question.
All right. Well, with that, thank you so much for
Hey,
coming.
you're welcome.
And
Good to be
this
here.
meeting is adjourned.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
We appreciate